Good day, everyone. My name is Cleophadea A. Madela. I am secondary student from Section Delta. So this is my summary discussion about the Module 2, which is the procedure at the crime scene. So before we proceed to the procedure at the crime scene, let's know first what is crime scene. So when we hear the word crime scene, the first idea that comes in our mind is na ay krimen nahitabo in that place, in that area, or should I say, na investigation nga mahitabo in which kana nga area is tapukan sa mga tao, then mo kuanta nga naagyo yung mga police nga moabot dira. So we define crime scene as the area where important acts took place immediately before and after the commission of the crime. So kung bisayon pa, mo na siya ang area in which naadira makita na to ang mga evidences nga sa crime nga nahitabo. O sa crime scene, naagidnay investigation. So kung maingon tag investigation, it is the observation or study of the close-by examination or systematic inquiry. Let's move to the procedure at the crime scene or ato ang topic yun din sa module 2. So, first is the upon arrival at the crime scene. So, the first thing nga buhaton nimo ug maabot ka sa crime scene. So, i-record nimo ang time of date nga niabot ka sa crime scene, then the location, the condition of the weather, and also the condition of the type of lightning or the direction of the wind. So second, to secure the crime scene is i-cordon nimo ang area in which mugamit ka og tape, crime scene tape or ropes, or para walay mga bystanders nga moduol sa crime scene para dili pud siya magalaw tong mga nahitabo dito sa crime scene. Next is, before you touch anything in the crime scene, you must secure first know first the status of the victim, if he or she is still alive. So, if the victim is still alive, then you can get the informations about the incident happened. Well, some of your co-workers or some of the member will call for ambulance for immediate response. So if it is still alive, then it will be immediately brought to the hospital, and after that you can proceed to the crime scene investigation in which you will do the measuring, the sketching, and photographing of the crime scene. So we must remember that only medical officer or medical legal officer can remove the body of the victim unless unusual circumstances justifies that it's immediate removal. So the team leader will designate a member or someone other policeman to be responsible to the person who will enter the crime scene. So in which kana sila dira kinahanglan nila maglista sa ilang name o unsay reason nga numusulod sila, and also apil ang time sa pagsulod o time sa paggawas nila sa crime scene. And also, dapat katulang mga authorized person ang mukuan gyud kana nagyo importante, dili ka nang makigsasawra dito. So the measure will be done by the measurer, then the sketch will be done by the sketcher, then he will do a rough sketch and the final sketch, and then in photographing, it will be done by a photographer using different ranges of the camera or different ranges. Then he will also include the neighbors and the entire place of that crime scene. So next is, you should identify and do some questioning sa mga tao nga nag-notify o nag-report, first nga nag-report ana sa mga police about sa krimen nga nahitabo, and then you should also appeal atong mga possible witnesses ana nga krimen. So next thing to do is determine the assailant or kung kinsa tong tao nga nagbuhat ana nga krimen through inquiry or observe his identity. And if kanang person is still in the vicinity or still in the area, you should arrest him. So last is to separate the witnesses, and you should get their statement independently para makita gid nimo kung pareha ba yun tanan ilang istorya. O aside from that, makagather kag a lot of information o idea sa ilahang mga statement o kung unsa gyud ang nahitabo. So, the golden rule of crime scene is do not touch, alter, or remove anything at the crime scene until the evidences has been processed through notes, sketches, photographs, and with proper measurement. So in searching for evidence, you should do a general survey of the scene in which imong kuan ang mga possible locations or obvious traces of action. You should also include kung aha ang entrance ug exit ana nga crime. Then the investigator must examine ang sa mga items nga iyahang encountered sa floor, sa walls, sa ceiling, and also they must give attention sa mga fragile nga mga evidences nga dali ra ma-contaminate such as dugo, ag mga cement or lain pang dira nga dali ra siya ma-contaminate. And also, you should ensure the fingerprints and those every little pieces of the evidences such as hair, spots, stains, liquids, and also remember all of the things that you may found in the crime scene is mahulog nga mga evidence. So in the large areas, if the crime scene is happened at the outdoor, so it must be divided into strips about 4 feet wide. So the policeman may first search the strip on his left. He faces the... So also, it is advisable nga ang mga investigator should go beyond the area because there's possible nga ang mga weapons nga gigamit dira sa incident is nakatago or somewhere within a square mile sa ana nga area. And also, after nimo ma-complete the search of the scene, in searching of the scene, so the investigator should examine the object or person actually attacked by the offender. So in crime scene search, the investigator will use these methods in order for, because makatabang ni kaayo para ilahang pag-search an nga area is hapsay or ganit. So we have 4 methods of crime scene search, which is first is strip search method, the double strip or grid method of search, the spiral search method, and lastly is the zone search method. So any method of choice will do provided that the alertness, the knowledge, the experience, or the participating investigator are present. So any method of choice will do provided that the alertness, the knowledge, the experience, or the participating investigator are present. So if the area to be searched is quite extensive, then a more systematic scheme of approach is recommended. So strip method. So the searchers A, B, and C proceed slowly at the same pace along the path parallel to one side of the rectangle. So at the end of the rectangle, the searcher turn and proceed back along new lanes but parallel to the first movement. So the rectangle is traversed first parallel to the base and then parallel to the side. So the double strip or grid method of search, it is a modification of the strip search method, but here the rectangle is traversed first parallel to the base, then parallel to the side. So third is the spiral method. So the searchers follow each other in the path of a spiral, beginning on the outside and spiraling towards the center. So the zone search method, in this method of search, so the area is considered to be approximately circular. So the area to be searched is divided into 4 quadrants and each searcher is assigned in each quadrant. So in collecting evidence, it must be done after mahuman og sketch o ma-photograph. Then, those fragile evidences must be collected immediately. And also, if there is a firearms, so if they found a firearms, it must to have tampered serial number, and then it will automatically subjected to macro itching at the PNP crime laboratory. So, a corresponding report of firearms and explosive office must be made for verification purposes. So then, the investigator should touch the evidence only when necessary. So in removal of evidences, so the investigator must put every evidences its initials. Then it must also include the date and the time of discovery of each item of evidence. And also those time of discovery of the evidences with proper identification. And also, each of the evidences must be put or placed in a suitable container and sealed. So tagging or evidence or any physical evidence obtained must be tagged before it submits sa evidence custodians. And then the evaluation of evidence is that every evidence nga makita must be evaluated in relation to all other evidence, individually and collectively. So, in preservation of evidence, the investigator must responsibly ensure the and preservation of evidence. So, the investigator is responsible to ensure that every precaution is exercised to preserve physical evidence in the state in which it is recovered or obtained until it will release to the evidence custodian. So, releasing the scene, dili madali-dali pag-release sa scene if wala pa na kompleto ang process sa mga investigator. So, ang team leader, siya ang na-authorize nga mag-final walkthrough sa mga process ang gibuhat sa iyang mga members. If naay nalimtan or naay nalatangan, then magre-process na po sila sa pag-investigate sa crime scene. So, sketching of crime scene. So, crime scene sketch is the simplest and the most effective way of showing actual measurements and identifying significant items of evidence in their location at the scene. So, sketching is supplementary to photography. So, in crime scene search, the sketch must be sponsored or verified. So, it must be used the types of sketches, which is the floor plan or bird's eye view, evaluation drawings, plotted view, and perspective drawings. Then, all the measurements should be write down on it. And then, fill all the details on your rough sketch, and then you will do the final sketch in your office. So even if you have finished your final sketch, you should keep your rough sketch. Also, you should indicate the north direction with an arrow and indicate the place in the sketch as well as the person who drew it. Use the key, capital letters of the alphabet, for listing down more on or less normal parts of accessories of the place, the numbers of items of evidences, and also indicate the position, location, and relationship of objects. You should also use the methods or system of locating points of the object on sketch, which is the rectangular coordinates constructed on transecting baseline and triangulation. Also, the two investigators should check critical measurement such as skid marks, and measurement should be harmony or in centimeters, inches, yards, meters mixed in one sketch. You should also use the standard symbols in the sketch and show which way door swing, and then show with an arrow direction of stairway and recheck the sketch for clarity, accuracy, scale, and title key. So we have two types of sketch, which is rough sketch and finished sketch. So the rough sketch is made by the investigator at the crime scene, with no scale, proportion, ignored, and everything is approximate. It is to be used as a basis of finished sketch. While the Finished sketch, it must be made primarily for courtroom presentation. Scale and proportion observed. Under those kind of sketch, we have sketch of locality, sketch of grounds, and sketch of details. In sketch of locality, it gives the picture of the crime scene in relation to its environment, including neighbors, buildings, roads, and etc. While in the grounds, it includes the crime scene. It is the nearest environment, example, a house with a garden. And sketch of details describes the immediate crime scene only. So now let's move to the interview. So when we say interview, it is the questioning of a person who is believed to possess knowledge that is of official interest to the investigator. So in an interview, the person questioned usually gives his account of an incident under investigation or offers information concerning a person being investigated in his own manner and words. So why interview is very important? It is because in most cases, interview are the only source of information, and a great part of the investigation is devoted in it. Basic assumption is that nobody has to talk to law enforcers. No law compels a person to talk to the police if he does not want to, and therefore people will have to be persuaded, always within legal and ethical limits, to talk to law enforcers. This make interviewing an art. Scientific aids to criminal investigation. So the specific tools a criminal investigator can use are fingerprinting or dactyloscopy, photography, forensic chemistry, medical legal, forensic ballistics, question documents examination, polygraphy, and DNA analysis. So let's move on to the next topic, which is homicide and murder investigation. So, homicide and murder, when we talk about it, people say na they are relatively similar. So homicide investigation, it is the official inquiry made by the police on the facts and circumstances surrounding the death of the person which is suspected to be criminal or unlawful. So what is homicide? So homicide is any person not falling within the provision of the Article 246 or the parricide revised penal code shall kill another without the attendance of any of the circumstances enumerated in Article 248, or the murder revised penal code shall be deemed guilty of homicide. So the elements of homicide are: a killing exists, the accused did the act without legal justification and with intent to kill, the killing is neither murder, parricide, nor infanticide. So intent to kill is presumed if deaths result from the unjustifiable act. If death did not result from the act, intent to kill is essential to prove attempted or frustrated homicide. Otherwise, the crime may not be physical injuries only. When we say murder, it is in any person not falling within the provision of Article 246 or the parricide of the RPC shall kill another if committed with any of the following attendant circumstances. So the elements of a murder are: a killing exists, the accused killed the deceased under any of the above circumstances qualifying the killing to murder, and the killing does not constitute parricide or infanticide. So the circumstances that qualify the killing to murder must be alleged in the information, as otherwise the killing may be considered as merely homicide. So the easiest way to compare the murder and homicide is that homicide is the killing of one person by another, whether premeditated or unintentional. Otherwise, murder is an act of deliberate killing of another being, especially a human. Another is parricide. Parricide is any person who kills his father, mother, child, or whether legitimate or illegitimate, or any of his ascendants or descendants or his spouse, shall be guilty of parricide. So the elements of parricide are: the person is killed by the accused, the person killed is the father, mother, or child not less than 3 days old, whether legitimate or illegitimate, or the ascendant or descendant or the spouse of the accused. The role of medical legal officer in homicide investigation is that the determination of criminal responsibility in death has been developed into a specialized field of medical science called forensic pathology. A pathologist can assist in homicide investigation by documentation all wounds, bruises, scratches, scars, or other marks at the time of the autopsy, and to an interpretation of findings based on medical. So necropsy report, it is a document stating that the cause of death of the victim. This is the medical legal report. So let's move to the methods of identification. So first is DNA analysis. Second is fingerprints. Fingerprint identification is the most positive and quickest method of ascertaining identity. However, incineration or decomposition, the sole clue may be bone, a skull, or a few teeth. Next is skeletal studies. Examination of the skeleton may provide a basis for identification. Visual inspection. So someone knowing the deceased person may be recognize the victim. Personal effects. Identification of a victim by personal effects such as jewelry, ID cards, wallets, belts, shoes, and etc. And tattoos and scars. So identification scars, most tattoos, pockmarks, or other markings may be helpful in identification, particularly in conjunction with other findings. Dental evidence or forensic odontology. Identification based on the examination of the teeth is valuable in as much as the teeth are probably the most durable part of the human body. Clothing. So, clothing containing cleaners, marks, labels, initial size, colors, texture, knitting, etc. have provided investigators with the leads and even identification in most instances. Last is photographs. Identification of victim has been made by publication in bulletins, circulars, televisions, and other distribution media. Artists, sketches, death mark, and cast have been likewise aided the police in identifying unknowns. So now let's know the establishment or of motive to the killing. So first is the victim's background. So second is the modus operandi. Next is informants. Next is the benefits. Next is opportunity. Then knowledge, which is information. Next is approximate time of death, composite sketches, photographs of known criminals, voice identification, polygraph testing, fingernail scraping, and signs of struggle. It also includes the field contact report and the motor vehicle. Robbery defined as taking of something of value from another person using force or violence or threat of force or violence. So who are guilty of robbery? So any person who with intent to gain shall take any personal property belonging to another by means of violence against or intimidation of any person or by using force upon anything shall be guilty of robbery. Elements of the crime. So first is unlawful taking of personal property. Second is the property must be belong to another. Third is the taking is done with violence against or intimidation of person or force upon things. Fourth is the taking is with intent to gain. Well, theft means it is a criminal act in which property belongings to another is taken without the person's consent. So, two types of robbers. First is amateurs motivated by greed, want, and desire for a thrill or need for self-testing. Second is professionals, are described as those persons who work at robbery as a trade marketing and eat their living and having no other means of income. And that's the end of the video. Thank you and God bless.